Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's podcast. Today, we have a very exciting podcast as we have a collaboration with our Ukrainian partners. And we are going to be talking about studying in the UK versus Ukraine, and also a little bit about the technology in the UK and Ukraine and how that is implemented into our studies and has also enabled collaboration several times with our Ukrainian partners. So, I'm Ruby, and I'm the podcast editor, and I'll be hosting today's podcast from the UK side. And I'm joined with Pema and Maddie today, if you'd both like to introduce yourselves. Pema, if you'd like to go first.
Hi, I'm Pema. I just finished my first year of economics and finance, and yeah, I'm happy to be in this podcast.
Hi, I'm Maddie. I just finished my fourth and final year as an economics and politics student.
Thank you both so much for joining me on this podcast. It's really exciting to be able to get a perspective from the UK and from Ukraine. And I think the three of us on this will be able to give different viewpoints to the different questions. So first of all, I'd like to talk to you guys a little bit about what it is like to study in the UK. So firstly, when you come to university, we have different style of campuses in the UK. So UEA is a campus-based university, but there are also city-based universities where there isn't a campus and the lectures are spread throughout the city. How do you guys find that? What type of campus do you prefer? Do you enjoy like the campus university we have at UEA?
Yeah, I think originally when I started uni, I was like, oh, I really wish I went to a city campus. But as the time went on, I realized how much nicer it is to be on campus because, um, like you can so many people when you're just walking from a place to another place. Everything's in one area. I think transport, because I think in a city it would have cost us so much just to get from one place to another lecture, things like that. But with UEA, it's all together, which is very convenient.
One of the great things about UEA campus specifically as well is how close it is to nature and wildlife as well. Like on campus, you've got like a lake, like 2 minutes walk away. So you get the best of both worlds, like being able to easily travel into the city, but also go for like a really lovely walk around in the countryside at the same time, so close to your lectures. So yeah, I think campus is definitely worked out really well.
Yeah, definitely. It's going to be interesting to know what the Ukrainian school think and if they prefer campus or city-based. Because I would also agree that being on campus, specifically in the UK, where you do have, some quite large cities, if people are going to university and in London and things like that, that actually a campus really brings people together. And I've always felt very safe at UEA, and I think having a campus university has been a part of that. So, Maddie, you had just mentioned that you were on a 4-year course. I've just completed my 3-year course. Would you like to expand a little bit on your 4 years and what that entailed as opposed to the 3-year standard course?
Yeah, of course. So 4 years. So I did my first and second year as everyone else did. And then for my third year, I did a year out in industry. So I went and worked in a different city full time for a firm, an economic consultancy firm. And so I get a year's experience paid. And then I've come back and returned for my final year, which is most people's third year.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good setup we have here. So just to clarify, we have a 3-year standard course for your undergraduate in the UK, and then students are able to take a year out in their third year and either study abroad or study on placement to get some practical experience. And I think that's really something really nice that universities are offering and pushing as well, especially at open days. The opportunity to go and live somewhere for a year at 20 years old is not for everyone, but also it's a very safe environment in order to be able to travel because you are connected to a university. So I think it is really gaining popularity recently with people wanting to travel abroad during their university and do a placement, of course. So you hopefully finish uni and you have that experience and it aids you in getting a job afterwards. And again, I don't actually know how the system works in Ukraine. I know, for example, that the UEA and other English universities have started a scheme where I think specifically Chinese students are able to join UEA in their second or their third year here and still get a degree accreditation from UEA. So it'll be interesting to see if they have any schemes like that for international students as well. Our courses, the standard 3-year course and obviously the 4-year course that we have. I quite like how we're from different perspectives here. Pema, you've just finished first year.
Yep.
So maybe you'd like to elaborate on this one about how many lectures we have per week, because I know that it's obviously different in first year compared to third year. So if you'd like to start us off with that first year perspective.
Well, in my most recent term, we had, I think, we had 5 hours a week of lectures, two for around it was usually 2 hours for each module, except one for another one. But then along with that, we obviously had like seminars, workshops, IT labs. So in the end, I think it was around 9 hours a week. So it wasn't too much, but yeah, it's just I think it's a good mix of different like work types. So it allows you to like have more focus study. So you actually talk to the seminar leader, and then with lectures, obviously, like if you prepare well, if you prepare well in advance, the lectures make it understandable.
Yeah, and I think something that I'd like to pick up on there is you said that there was a lot of variety. So there are workshops, seminars, lectures. Do the assessments reflect that? Are there also a lot of variety within the assessments that you're doing in first year?
Definitely. I think we've had so far presentations, synoptic assessments. I don't know what it's called, but like we had to submit an Excel spreadsheet. We've had obviously in-person tests, online tests, and even though like tests, they have variety within them. Some are multiple choice with short answers, some are essay based. So I think, yeah, everything how you can be assessed get mostly covered. So it's really good.
Yeah, I think that's a really good thing to mention, especially when we're talking to different, countries and different universities. I remember when I first came to university, I thought that everything was going to be essays and exams, and that would be it. But actually, I've had some great fun doing presentations, and
Yeah.
I had to present a poster in the city centre, so I was talking to locals and people within business as well as students and lecturers. So that there is a wide variety actually of presentations, and I think that's really nice, and also really helps when we're able to do things like the Ukrainian collaboration we did in March about women in economics and Women's History Month. It really builds the skills for that, being able to present to people of different nationality and be confident in doing that. I think the assessments really, really aid for being a confident speaker and a confident presenter, as well as having to write some extensive essays and exams as well. Okay, thank you, Pema, for that first year perspective. Maddie, I know you've just finished your final year, so if you want to give us a final year perspective.
Yeah, of course. So I'd say, a little bit more intense than first year. You'd hope so. There's definitely a bit more of a focus towards employability. So a lot of the assessments I did were thinking about how this would be used in like a job going forward. And then so like policy briefs and stuff like that. So there's a good crossover between my economics modules and my politics modules. Kind of similar assessments, but for like different topics from different perspectives. So the politics ones actually in final year is done slightly differently to economics. So the modules are worth 30 credits, whereas the economics ones are worth 20. So there was a higher weighting on the politics ones for the final year.
Yeah, I would also agree that the assessments in final year are more related to employability and maybe real world things. I mean, I know that I had a module of alternative investments, and that was something where I had a 1 week turnaround assignment and a 3 week turnaround assignment, as opposed to knowing the assignment at the beginning of the semester and having to hand it in at the end. And when questioning the lecturer about that, that was very much geared to, in the real world, you may be given 4 or 5 days, a working week to complete a report, to complete an analysis. And he wanted to reflect that in the assessments. And in that, we had to use things like Stata, which are a second year and final year workspace where you can do analysis. So yeah, I would agree. And the other thing I'd also say is first year is very geared up on theory. You're very much looking to kind of review the theories, and maybe your exams will be focusing on what you know about the theory, whereas final year is more about applying that. So something that always sticks in my mind is the economics of sport module that we have here at UEA, and definitely something where you see the things that you have learned in the first 2 years at university and the theories you've learned, and then finally applying them to something interesting and relevant as well to the world. So yeah, I like to see the progression between first and third year, and now I've done it, I can definitely see how the first year assessments and the variety of them really gears you up for them final year kind of more employable type of assessments. Something that we also focused on during our collaboration of Women's History Month, and we had a talk from Fanny, who's actually also been on the podcast, and she's an exchange student from France, and she spoke quite a lot about university courses and if they are female or male dominated. And I know that obviously we're all located in the School of Economics. So what's your guys' perspective on that? Would you say that we are more female or male dominated in the School of Economics? Pemma, I'd like to go to you first because with you being first year or just finished your first year, it would just be nice to see how it is, now. It's a little bit more up to date with the newer cohorts coming in. What do you think?
I think it's definitely more male dominated. As much as like we're pushing for like equality in all like areas of study and things like that, there's definitely a clear like majority in most of my lectures.
Yeah, I'd say it's a nice refreshing change to have the entire NEP board to be women.
Yeah.
Also, not just in economics, where even in my cohort is distinctly more male. Politics as well. When I went into it, I was expecting the mix to be a lot more even, but I found there to be not as significantly, but still, I'd say more men than women.
And Maddie, on your placement year, you were doing different types of research, and the role that you were in and the company that you went to, was that more male dominated or female dominated? I'm just wondering from the perspective of, is it more likely that males will do an economics degree and try and get on the placement, in order to get a job when they finish? How did you find that experience?
Yeah, the company was definitely more male dominated, to say the least. I think there was in my office personally 2 other female economists. It was quite a small office, but it's definitely noticeable when you walked in that there was a difference for sure.
Yeah, which shows that, there's not just the inequality in study level, but it also reflects, in the wider job market. And as you say, I think that we have this year a board of unintentionally all females for the NEP. And I think that is really great that, economics is getting a name for itself within the female industry, so should we say, and hopefully over time we can, change the balance of the scales. And yeah, one great thing as well is that, that the head of our board, Professor Liliana, again, another female voice within the School of Economics, and actually quite a few of my lecturers have been female. I also was imagining coming into university and only having male professors, but actually I've, had a variety of people teach me throughout my university career, that being, different ethnicities and of course different genders. And I've been lucky enough to have quite a few female professors, more than I thought actually, but I would say that it maybe does reflect the kind of cohorts that we see. I would say that my cohort is, a 70-30 split between males and females, and I think that has also reflected in the lecturers that I have had. But no, I was lucky to have some female lecturers. All right, so for the second part of this podcast, we're going to be talking a little bit more about technology and how that influences our studies, what we have available on campus, and also how it's enabled these type of collaborations within our university experience. So something that's interesting for people listening is if we're able to do research on industry standard equipment. Pema, have you had any experience of this in your first year?
Not directly in my course, but I have in with UEA that allow us to participate in research studies, and there are LEDR labs that allow us to basically use software that will be used in real life studies for economics, and yeah, allow us to participate in them, and it just increases accessibility for even outside economics. People who don't study it can also participate. So I think it's a really good facility to have.
Yeah, no, that sounds good. I do think that it's an amazing facility and something which is directly available to economic students as well, and PhD research. I think it's a great thing to be involved with. What about you, Maddie? Has it been within your course or within extracurricular activities?
Yes, I got to go to the new FEDS lab, so Finance, Economics and Data Science lab. It is like a gateway to the London Stock Exchange group. So there's lots of really useful resources and data there, and you can use like professional grade tools and training for things such as asset management, investment banking, and financial analytics. The school actually offers industry recognized certifications there, so you can really build your CV and learn some really valuable skills that you can use going further in your career.
And am I right in saying that these type of things are going to be applied into modules soon, maybe like behavioral economics?
Yeah, I think they have started to use them in behavioral economics and some experimental economics
Yeah, so again, a
modules as
great
well. Yeah.
way to link the things that we learn within modules to industry recognized platforms. Another thing that I've also used is the Bloomberg terminal, and I accessed this through the Oakwood Fund, which is a student-led investment fund on campus. And when we were able to access Bloomberg and do some of our research and analysis, using the Bloomberg terminal. So again, a great use of technology within our studies. So then going into like your courses and things, what type of stuff, is integrated? So I know that we spoke a little bit earlier about having workshops and labs, and I think I briefly mentioned Stata, which we use for a lot of analysis in final year. What other skills have you developed? Maybe Maddie, because you've now finished your course and you've had the practical experience. What kind of skills on software have you developed? So maybe Excel, R, Python, Stata, what things have you found useful in both academics and on placement?
I'd say Excel for sure has been like the skills I've learned have been so useful and so applicable to everything that I've been doing in my degree and outside of it. I think the Python workshop that the School of Economics offer for sure definitely helped me stand out of the crowd when I was applying for placements and looking for jobs. So I think, the use of softwares that is actually used in the industry has been really well taught and offered to students at this university.
Yeah, it's excellent to know that the type of things that we're learning at uni are also applicable, in the industry space when you are applying for things. Pema, from your perspective, were you aware of things like Excel before joining university? Was that something that you knew quite a lot about, or something that a lot of people in your cohort have learned during first year?
Yeah, I mean, for me, Excel, I mean, obviously I learned the basics in high school, like just like sum, average, um, how to make pie charts, things like that. But I think once I started university, especially this term with statistics, we had IT labs for Excel, and those were extremely useful because like Excel is so prominent within the finance industry and economics because currently I'm doing an internship and all I've done this past first week is look at Excel spreadsheets. So I think learning Excel within economics is like a crucial like skill.
Yeah, great response. I would also agree that having, Excel and being confident in Excel is something that can really help you stand out within interviews because it's just a skill that I think every employer needs to, have these days in order to be more efficient. So overall, both of you, how would you say that technology has aided your education and your research at university? I happily say that from my perspective, being able to use AI to aid my assessments has been something which has made me a lot more efficient and a lot more direct in what I want to produce in assessments. And by that I mean that if I get an assessment brief and there's several topics that I can pick from, I'm easily able to prompt AI in order for it to help me maybe write an assessment plan because I've been able to have a clear view of what it is that I'm writing. So yeah, that's something positive from my side. Both of you, how would you say that technology has aided your education? Maybe we'll go for Pema first, from a first year perspective.
Yeah, I think it's not just like the specialist stuff. It's also stuff as simple as like Blackboard, like all the virtual learning environments, because it's just with technology, it's helped so much to organize everything. For example, on the one website, you can watch the lecture recordings, you can download notes, you submit your coursework through it as well, or online tests. You receive feedback. There are formatives you can do to get further feedback on like your knowledge and answers. And I think, especially with UE, they're trying to implement AI into all parts of their like Blackboard and the eco-learning guide. Um, so I think they're just trying to make the most of everything available to support students' learning.
Yeah, no, I'd agree. It's great to be able to have everything in one place. Maddie, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, definitely. I would say I've just found it really useful in terms of research. So when, presented with a new topic or something you don't understand very well, how easy it is to access such a wide range of opinions or data. Um, I've found really, really useful. And then also when I was a PAL mentor for first year economics students, it was really, really useful also for explaining and teaching things because, everyone doesn't always understand something the first way. So either when you're trying to understand something yourself or explain it to others, there are so many resources you can find easily online to, try and explain things a different way or come up with other solutions to problems that people were having.
Yeah, I really like that response. I think it's very valuable to use AI and use these new innovations to help teaching others as well. I think that when you can use a tool to help elaborate the things that you know and help teach others, I think that becomes a really valuable asset. Something that I want to pick up from what you said, Pema, was actually about like having the recordings and be able to like, live stream things and collaborate and everything. Obviously, something that we've already done with our Ukrainian partners was our Women's History event in March, in which we were able to collaborate, via Teams, and we were able to have both universities present. And I think that that's something that's massively impacted education now and research as well, because we are able to reach new people and different people a lot more efficiently than we were before. However many years ago we would have had to have met them in person, and it would have been something that maybe was really unlikely to happen, whereas now we're able to host and collaborate on these type of events, and I think that's been really positive. I know that Pema, you were there at the event. Did you enjoy it? What was your speech about?
Yeah, it was great to have a talk there. I spoke about how women and economists belong in technology, and I think like just the fact that we're doing it online is like part of this big takeaway where technology is like it's spreading so far. It's not just with economics, but with all sorts of areas of study and industries. And even for this talk, technology was a key. Technology was essential for this talk because without it, we wouldn't have been able to collaborate with the Ukrainian students. Because despite studying in different countries and having different education systems, we were all interested in learning from one another and talking about what we were passionate about. So yeah, it reminded me that the universities themselves as well are increasingly global communities, especially with technology aiding them. And yeah, technology makes those connections far more easy to build.
Yeah, and I actually think that's a really, really lovely note to end on for this episode. That, obviously today is a collaboration, and we're really excited for the Ukrainian students to also answer the questions that we've been through today from their perspective. And you're completely right that, we're all in a world where actually it's so valuable to learn from each other, and to communicate with each other about, everyone's different perspectives. And I think that's a massive part of learning and education, is being able to see different people's point of view. So yeah, I think that's a great way to end off this episode today. And that, we're really excited also to hear from the Ukrainian students, and hope that they have enjoyed collaborating with us, and also telling us and, sharing with a bit more of the world their type of system, and regimes at university. So I want to thank you both, Pema and Maddie, for joining us, and to the Ukrainian students as well. So thank you both.
Yeah, thank you for letting me on this podcast.